Let's see, let's get in focus. There we go. Ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille. Okay. How's everyone doing today? Excellent. Let's get a couple minutes for people to jump on in. I got a lot of people jumping on early today. Sweet. Guess y'all want to learn how to code. Okay. Just some thumbs up. Hey, this is the first live stream with my new mic, right? Or not my new mic, but my new mic setup. Because remember, I had that like annoying buzz. Hopefully, that annoying buzz that was going on last month is gone. Hopefully, it should be, because I got a whole new mic set up now, or at least the back end of my mic. The mic itself is all the same. Sweet. Very clear. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you very much. Danny, Rion, Chris, Mike, Sarah. Hey, nice to see you, Sarah. Haven't seen you for a while. Dominic, sweet. Mr. Cole, excellent. Sounds only in left ear. Oh, really? Sound is only in the left ear, huh? Is that true for everybody else? I don't know. That's a new one. Audio. Let's see. Left, right channel. Okay. Mr. Workman's in the house. Okay. Not sure how to troubleshoot the audio thing. Okay. Mic seems more directional. Okay. Well, hopefully it is better. Hopefully I'll look at the recording later on. Hopefully the audio is going through both ears. I don't know. Mic is only through the left ear. Oh, I see that now. What the F? I don't know how to. Okay, let's see. How about let's see. Nope, still only. Okay. How about now? Okay. Not sure what's going on there. Darn it. Oh well. At least you guys can hear me. Okay. I'm not gonna try to troubleshoot that while we're going here live. Okay, so now it works. Okay, on both ears. Sweet, I fixed it. When I switch to my desktop, let me make sure that I hold on. Okay. All right. Let's see. Go here, go here, go here, go there. Okay. Hopefully that will fix it now. Okay, sweet. I fixed it. So when I go to my desktop sharing, the audio is same settings. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Sorry for spending a minute on that. Wanted to make sure we were all good there. So back to left only. Ah, crap. What? Oh, do we have is it right and left now? I didn't realize I was hold on. Let's go back to my shot. I'll go here. Okay. Hopefully it should be good. Okay. Now you're fine. Cool. Okay. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go over. So I have to say, Mr. James Alton Thomas, you, sir, are responsible for today's live stream. Okay. So Mr. James Alton Thomas, that is like, when you listen to all three names, it's like, hold on, are you gonna kill a president? Because this isn't like that's known. Like, if you have three names, like you are gonna assassinate a president. Okay, so James on the community, yesterday I think it was, or this morning, don't remember when, he was trying to learn how to code. And he felt that learning how to code would make him a better user of Foundation 6. And I would say that, I mean, learning how HTML and learning, I mean, you guys know me. Like, I always try to be a huge proponent of, let me go back to it. You guys can see me in all my glory. You know how I always try to get you guys to understand what's going on under the hood, right? And I feel if while you're clicking and sliding all these little sliders and creating a swatch and putting in a class name, like, yeah, you can completely do all of that and not understand a lick of how everything works. And it's okay, right? You can do that. You can design a website with Foundation 6 without understanding or knowing a line of code. That is 100% possible. And a lot of people do that. But I thought it would be fun to show you guys, because obviously the Foundation stacks, as you probably know, are built on an open source framework that was originally developed by a company called Zurb. And now I am the official maintainer of the entire open source project, which is fun and cool. And it's another thing on my enormous, ginormous plate. Okay. I'm actually working on a really big update to the open source framework. I worked on it all day yesterday. So yeah, anyway, that framework is just a bunch of think of it as like HTML snippets. Okay. It's obviously a lot more than that for there are some very advanced use cases and very advanced users of it. We're going to dive into that. We're going to trickle today a little bit into showing you how you can utilize these HTML snippets from Foundation to kind of, I think, would make you a better user of the Foundation stacks. Something is tickling my nose. I'm about to sneeze. So yeah, so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to dive into Foundation. I'm going to show you the Foundation website, the Foundation open source website, and we're going to copy paste. We're going to load that stuff into RapidWeaver, and we're going to maybe even show you a little bit here's how you do it in the stack. Here's how you do it in the code, kind of how you can kind of see the comparison, right? Pretty cool stuff here. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Hopefully you guys will get a little bit out of it. Okay. And yeah, some pretty cool stuff. So let's go ahead and let's share my screen again. Boop. Okay. So this is actually, hold on. Let me tell you how I got to this. If you go to get.foundation, okay, get.foundation, that's the actual website. That is the domain for the Foundation open source framework. Okay. And up here in the menu is called Docs. And if you go to Docs, Sites, Docs, because this is Foundation 6 for websites, there's also a Foundation for email, which, if you probably know, my email stacks are based off of that. Okay, so we are on Foundation for websites, and this is the homepage for the documentation. And there's a lot of great videos on here as well. This is a guy named Rafi, and Rafi is a good friend of mine now, and he made a ton of videos along with a guy named Kevin, all throughout these this documentation. And they talk about how to use the code. And so if you want to learn, the videos here are awesome. Okay. Right now, all those videos are on YouTube, and they're on the Zurb channel. Hopefully, probably by the end of this year, I plan on creating a Foundation specific channel, and then downloading and re-uploading all those videos to that channel. Okay. But anyway, getting off the point here. So what is Foundation? So I think we'll just dive into some really simple code here. Okay, I'm not going to go into how to download and build it, because we kind of already have it inside RapidWeaver, right? So I am going to jump a little bit into it. The documentation is broken up into various things. So here we have general, we have the XY grid. And the XY grid, while that sounds all complicated, that is all the powerful stuff behind the columns. inside Foundation 6. Okay. The other grids, the float and flex grids, those I do not ship those inside of the Foundation 6 theme and stacks. Okay. The only grid that we use here is called the XY grid. Okay. Because it's awesome. It's much better. The old float grid, that's actually, if you used Foundation 1, that used the float grid. Yep, this new XY grid is the bee's knees, and it's the way we're going to go. And I guess we can kind of dive into some of this. So a lot of this, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, let's bring up RapidWeaver. All right, let's bring up sandbox site. Okay. I was debugging. By the way, if you're a Vimeo user of Video Wall, I shipped an update today that kind of updated some of these, mostly just updated the vocabulary, because Vimeo like rebranded albums to showcases, and so I just kind of relabeled everything to be the latest vocabulary from Vimeo. There are a couple new API queries here as well. So if that is you, go ahead and check that out. Okay, so here we go. Let's go into, let's do something simple. So let's say, let's use this example right here. Okay, this example here is a query. And let's go ahead and here, I got these, enable this, I think. Okay, cool. Right here. Okay, actually, you know what? I don't want that. Never mind. Let's use this bad boy. Okay. Right, we go here, and we go. All right, let's look at this bad boy right here. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. This is a 2-column. Okay, and if we look down here, it resolves into this example down here. Okay, I guess we can even do this really simple example here. We'll go over all three. Why not? For fun. Okay, so this first example is a 2-column that's very boring. It's just 2 columns on top of each other. Okay, but now obviously we want to define some sizing for things, right? So let's look at this second example. Okay, this is a 2-column here. Okay, now let's show you how this corresponds. I forget how to just quickly Option tab. So just Option tab. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and look at this code right here. And we're going to add a 2-column to the page. Okay. And when we do a 2-column, now remember, Foundation is mobile first, right? So that's why a lot of times you'll see this is small-6. Okay. So here we're starting a grid, and then each of these, it's actually called a cell in the code. We'll call it a column for our terminology, okay? And it's saying small-6. So let's replicate this same exact code here. Why not? It could be fun. So let's go to the 2-column, and I'm going to say small-6 and small-6. Okay? Just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and just plop in some text in here, okay? Just so we have something to preview. Okay, and if we look at this, a little bit different actually. So in this 2-column here, I had medium set to inherit. We'll just I had it set to auto. Let's just set that to be inherit, and we preview, and voila. Okay, if we look here, let's go ahead and turn this on. If we look at the code right here, okay, we will see that here we have a grid X, and then we have 2 cells that are set to small, right? Pretty cool. You know, I don't think this little loop tool works well for code. We're going to go back to this bad boy. Okay, so there we go. I just wanted to show you where I'm not going to do this all for everything here today, but I just want to show you that this code maps to these foundation stacks pretty much identically. Okay, because that's what it's based off of. And so yeah. So next up here we have grid X, and we have cell, and then medium 6, large 4. Okay. So obviously that what that means is on small it's going to take up 12, on medium it'll take up 6, and then on large it'll take up 4. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's copy this code. And I'm going to show you what we can do inside RapidWeaver. What I'm going to do here, okay, actually let's just do this. I'm going to go here and we're going to chuck in an HTML stack. And these large icons are driving me crazy. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm going to drag in an HTML stack. Pop. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the code from the foundation website here. Okay. And if we preview that, what we'll notice is now this doesn't have the background colors because obviously, I mean, we're adding background colors here that aren't necessarily getting added into this. This is just for illustration purposes, right? But now we have our cells. So if we look here, if we go to small, okay, we'll notice that on small, our 2 columns go full width. And then on medium, it goes 6 and 6. So it's split in half. And then there we go. On large, it goes to 4 and 8. Okay. Just for fun, let's add a utility class in here. Oh boy, we're gonna mix all kinds of stuff. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna add BG:black into there. Okay, actually let's do not black because the text is black. Let's do primary. Okay, so if we preview there we go. Okay, if you're wondering what I just did there, maybe I did that too quickly. Okay, oops. Okay, so here we go. Here's our code. Now I am using an app called Coda right now. And I'm sorry, Nova. It used to be Coda from a company called Panic. There's tons of great code editors out there. I used one called VS Code, which actually is made by Microsoft, and it's very, very popular. I used it for many years. And then there's another one called Sublime Text. So BB Edit. There's a lot of really great code editors out there. This just happens to be the one that I'm using is called Nova. Okay. So if we notice in the code, all I did is I added, so in the foundation, in our foundation theme, okay, remember we have all these utility classes. And so all I wanted to do in this example was show you, us to be able to visualize these 2 different columns, right? And I know one way we could do that is just with a class. Okay, so here I have div class equals, then here you see we have a bunch of classes. Well, guess what? I can just use a utility class in here. And there we go, right? And that's the same thing if I were to create a swatch. I just put a class in there, okay? That's all that the stacks itself are doing, okay? But let's go ahead and do something a little bit more exciting than columns, okay? Mike is getting overdriven when Joe comes over to it. Oh, really? Oh, so I will try to not move my face, I guess. I'll look at my mic settings a little bit, but I will try to keep my mouth closer and perpendicular to the mic. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. I tend to move around a lot. Sorry about that. Okay. Thank you for putting that in there in the chat, though. I'll try to make that better, and I'll tweak the settings for the next live stream so it's not quite as sensitive. Okay. Let's go to some more exciting examples. There's tons of other things inside the grid here. You'll notice that, and you'll probably recognize a lot of this stuff from the stacks, right? So we have a container, a grid container. Well, guess what that is? That's a container stack, right? And all that is this one big boy right there. It's just this div grid container. That's all it is. Okay. And then we have stuff like, full width grids, auto sizing, so all the sizing, various sizing adjustments. We'll also have the ability to do offsets, which you'll see inside the Columns Pro stacks, not inside the normal columns, but in Columns Pro, we have the ability to do offset and do things like that. You'll see that we have block grids, which is the block grid, columns. Then we have vertical grids, which are obviously the vertical grid stack within Foundation 6. So there we go. These utilities that are here, you'll see in the docs, there's a bunch of utilities. Some of these are a part of the Foundation 6 utility classes, actually. I'm not going to dive into a lot of these, but there are a lot of these that are, and all of these are documented inside of the classes stack. Okay. So we have stuff like, shadow, or we have, radius or rounded classes. You can add that. There's also settings for a lot of these various things inside various stacks, like buttons, for example. But there are a lot of utility classes that are provided by the framework. And then I, on top of that, added a lot of utility classes on top of this just for stacks, just for you guys, stacks users. Okay. Such as a lot of the BG colors and the stuff like that. Not all of that is a part of the framework, but it definitely is a part of the stacks that you have, the ability to use. So that's a lot of fun. Okay. We're not going to dive into really any of the utilities. Typography. Here's controls. Okay, let's go into controls. This is a simple thing to that's visual that we can see. Okay, and as you see, a lot of these demos that are here, they're just HTML that we can see how everything is, and then below it is an example of what that particular HTML will output. Okay, so for example, if I were to go ahead and take this code, and let's go ahead and use the same HTML box. Actually, let's do it after this. Just paste that in there. Guess what? Voila, I have my buttons. Okay. Now, again, this is just an exercise. I think it probably is easier and nicer for you to use the button stacks, because there's a lot of options and technical things that you can do with a button, right? That the stacks make easier for you. Okay. But I think it is important for us to know and to understand that all this is originating from somewhere, and it's just copy and pasting this code and tweaking some values, maybe adding a class, right? And that's really what I wanted to get into your heads today, where, how I'm showing you behind the curtain, how everything's done. Okay. So you kind of understand that, hey, look, here I have a button. Okay. And if I wanted a tiny button, guess what? So I have a class of button. So I have an A tag, which is an anchor, AKA a link, right? And then here I put a class of button. And then I also have a class of tiny. And that tiny is the thing that tells Foundation, hey, make your button tiny, right? And if you look here, we also have button small. And then we also have, if you have just button, it is the default size, which is this basic size right here. Okay. And then if you add a large class, so if you add button and large, guess what? You get a large button. Okay. And just for fun, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead over here. Let's add a button stack to the page. Okay. So I have a button, and by default, we have the medium size. Okay. Now, here I have, the ability to have extra small, large, and medium. Okay. And then you can also have expand and all that kind of stuff. But let's go back to the medium size. What happens if I go to the class on this button and I type in the word tiny? Well, guess what? I have a tiny button. Okay. Because all it is a class, right? So the default medium just adds no class to it. Okay. Which we saw over here, right? Which is this medium button here. Okay. It adds nothing. It adds no class. It's just the class of button. Okay. So that's the default size. But again, when you're clicking this extra small button, okay, all that does is adds the tiny class to the button. Okay. And if I click on this one, guess what? It adds a small class to the button. And when I click on this large, guess what? It adds a large class to the button. Okay. And you can see that just by, again, if we go back to the medium, which is the default size, we'll go ahead and type in large. Oops. If I type it in right. right? There's a large button. If I type in small, there's a small button, right? So this is just adding classes to our button, okay? And that's all that this is. Same thing with that expanded, which is this expanded. You could also do a small expanded button, okay, which is here. So if you notice here, it has, here we have the small and the expanded class, right? So that gives us a smaller button that is expanded, which means it goes all the way across. Okay. You can define the padding of the button. So essentially, when you add tiny or small or large or things, what that does is those classes have pre-made styles. Okay. So for example, when you add tiny, if you look here, it obviously makes the text smaller. Okay. It also affects the padding, because if you look at a tiny button, it doesn't have a lot of padding. But if you add a large button, it has a lot of padding, right? So yeah, so that's why one reason, if you look at site styles all the way at the bottom, I allow you to change this text size of buttons inside site styles. Okay, I don't give you control over the padding per se, but you could easily override that with a swatch if you really wanted to. Okay. So yeah, these pre-made classes, and think of these as just, they are pre-made classes, tiny, small, large, but obviously these are ones that are only for buttons. Okay. If you add large to a piece of text, it's not going to probably do anything. Okay. Unless you created a class for that. So these are pre-made classes that Foundation creates for us, so that we can just magically copy and paste this bit of code. And as long as we know some of these classes, we can easily just add and remove these classes to our code. Okay. And to get the look and feel of the buttons we want. So that has to go with size. But what about colors, right? Now, if we look over here, when we have a button, we can change the colors, right? We have various color schemes. We have primary, secondary, alert, success, right? And as you see here, guess what? Those are just classes as well, right? So, so if we look here at this example, we have a button primary. Okay. Now, actually, by default, if you don't put the primary class, the primary color will be defined. Okay. But you can also have secondary, right? You can have success, alert, and warning. And these are the colors. These colors themselves for these buttons are defined inside site styles. Okay. If you look inside site styles here, right? Okay. They're also defined if you were hand coding the site with Foundation, these would be defined within the configuration of Foundation as well in the configuration files. But you define what the success color is, and the alert color and the warning color. Okay. And by doing that, all you have to do is add these classes to your button. So for example, just to show you that these are just classes, I'm going to go ahead and let's set this button back to primary. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let's type in the success class. Whoops. Success. Now look, all I added was a success class to this button. And guess what? It turned out to be green, my success color, right? And if I put the alert class, guess what? It's a red button. And I can combine these classes as well, right? I could do alert space small, and I have a small alert button. Okay. So that's how all these classes are. That's how Foundation is kind of built. We have all these classes that we can utilize for various components that make things easier to style. Okay. And again, I could just copy this code here, and I can go over here into Foundation. If I didn't want to use the stacks, I just wanted to use the code. Oops. Paste. Voila. There's all our buttons. Primary, secondary, success, alert, and warning. Pretty cool, right? Okay. So just want to show you, you can go to the site, copy these code snippets, and paste them into HTML. Okay, you don't even need site styles on the page, to be honest. Here, I'm going to delete site styles. Now, if you don't have site styles on the page, one of the drawbacks is you're not going to be able to visualize this code inside edit mode. Okay. But if we preview this, we'll see they do definitely work. Okay. So that is actually a kind of a plus. If you wanted to use Foundation 6 for free inside RapidWeaver, you could download the Foundation 6 theme. Okay. And then on top of the theme, you could just use HTML inside stacks. Now, obviously that can get difficult because you can't really necessarily preview everything in edit mode, right? Site Styles does a lot of that lifting for us so that we can preview and look at all that stuff in edit mode. And it does a lot of that complicated stuff for you. Okay. But yeah, I mean, this is just raw HTML and I can preview it. I have no site styles on the page at all, but because the theme is Foundation and the Foundation theme loads all the necessary libraries, we have access to the entire Foundation framework with HTML all for free. Pretty cool. Okay. But for this, let's go back to site styles because it makes our life easier. Okay. Here we go. I'm not going to dive into any more of the buttons. There's all kinds of stuff. So you can have hollow buttons, disabled buttons, clear buttons, right? When we get down to these drop down arrows, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff we could do with buttons, and you'll probably notice that a lot of these map to the settings that you see inside all the button stacks. Okay. Navigation. So menus and stuff. Inside RapidWeaver, I've built this really cool, nifty menu builder, right? So inside this stacks, there's this menu builder. Inside all of, I'm just going to pick out the default menu stack, right? And we have access to this little menu builder where we can build out our menus. Then each menu item we can then add a link and add tooltips and do all kinds of interesting stuff, right? But all this is just HTML, right? And this is what a menu looks like in HTML, right? So just to prove it, let's just go ahead and we'll copy this and go over here and let's go below all these buttons here. I'm going to paste in my menu. Voila. Look, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, that menu, right? Just to show you, if we go to edit mode or preview, there it is. And then this particular one down here, this is the one I built with the menu stack, right? So yeah, again, just copy and paste these snippets. You can play around with these things. Sometimes I'll admit, sometimes maybe it's easier for you just to create your menu with HTML. If you're familiar enough with HTML and it doesn't scare you, it could be a quicker way to build out your menu and manage your menu maybe with just typing out some HTML rather than trying to build out your menu with this menu builder. Okay. So yeah, power user tip right there. Sometimes if you're creating lots of menus, that could be, it could potentially be easier to type it out like this. Could be. And you have really not much benefit, right? The menu stack itself, there's some settings in here, but nothing that's rocket science per se. Okay. A lot of these are just classes that we can utilize as well on the menu. Okay. Because all these settings, most of them just add a class. Okay. Not all of them. There are some that do a little bit more, have more logic built into them, but a lot of them just basically add classes to things. Okay. I'm letting all the magic out today. Here, item, menu alignment, right? So we want to align right. But guess what? That aligns all the menu items to the right, right? So, and that's what all these settings here, menu alignment. There you go. Menu alignment, right. There we go. Okay. Obviously this particular one you don't preview that inside edit mode, right? But, again, it's just this align right class that if I then, let's take that into, this here. If I just apply that there, boop, there we go. Okay. So you will see it if you apply it to the menu inside edit mode, because edit mode, I have this entire menu builder, which is like a whole UI on top of the normal menus and all that jazz. So the resulting code is going to be exactly the same, right? So if we preview over here, we have menus that are floated to the right. Okay. So again, as you see, these are just classes. They're just classes that you can add to various things, right? Just there's different ways. You'll see there's vertical menus. If we go into the drop-down menu, let's paste in an example of a drop down. Okay. So let's just, okay, let's do this one here. We copy that. And then we go over here. Paste that in there. Okay. And if we preview, we'll see that there, I have a drop-down menu. Right? So yeah, again, a lot of these things you could just go ahead and copy and paste and play around with. You know, and things like menus, maybe it's simpler for you to edit or manage that menu via HTML. If you're comfortable with that, it could be an interesting way to go. Okay. And as you see, all these docs have all the various examples here with the corresponding code snippets. Okay. On how to do everything. Okay. Let's jump into some other things. Let's see, like containers. So let's get out of navigation. Let's do an accordion. That could be interesting. And accordions. So if you didn't know accordions, this is an example of an accordion, right? So accordion, the HTML is pretty simple, right? And again, it's all these snippets that we can leverage. Now, obviously, this is going to be a little bit probably more challenging, where Stacks really starts excelling, because inside the accordion, you actually have to have content within the accordion, right? And that's where Stacks is the huge game winner here, because you could just start dragging and dropping your content in there, right? But if you start hand coding this with HTML, you're pretty much on your own, right? With the content here. So let's go ahead and copy. I'm not sure. This is a limited snippet here. Let's see what it generates, because it doesn't contain all of the code. Let's get rid of this menu stack here. So in this example, in this particular demo, they only have the first accordion. They don't have accordion 2 and accordion 3. They just kind of have a little, we expect you to be able to put all the content in here yourself, sort of thing. But it's not difficult to look. Let's look at what's happening here. Let's go over to this code here. Let's paste this out. Okay. So here is an accordion. This is how you start an accordion. So you just create a UL element, which is an unordered list. Okay. Essentially, actually, if we were to remove this accordion, these classes from this, it would be a bulleted list. Okay. So yeah, little side effect there. Here for fun, let's show you that. All right. If I go into here, if I remove the class accordion here, and we'll remove that data accordion attribute. Okay. If I click there and we preview, guess what? Look, this is just a bulleted list. Now, obviously the accordion title has a style to it as well, which applies to the title and stuff like that. But just to show you, this is just a bullet list. And we're changing that bullet list, okay, with classes. Okay, so here, just by adding this class accordion and the data accordion attribute, we are going to morph this into this complex UI component that is an accordion. Okay, so here we have the accordion, and then inside the accordion, we're going to have different list items. So, if we wanted multiple sections, we would then essentially copy and paste that, right? Okay, so we would take this, I collapse. This code editor essentially allows us to collapse things, okay? So this entire section, that is one tab, okay? If I wanted a second one, I would copy and paste that. Okay, so like, for example, if I could just go ahead and copy that, paste it in there, guess what? I now have two accordions in my, two tabs or two sections in my accordion, okay? So let's analyze what an accordion content layer is. So inside of there, we have a class that has an accordion item, and then there's a class of isActive. guess what the isActive does, right? It just defines that that particular accordion item is active. And chances are what that does is that applies like some different styles to the active one. Okay. And then we have this little JavaScript data attribute that is utilized by the JavaScript to, recognize that this is an accordion item. Okay. So there's some redundancy here, right? Because we are defining a class that's accordion, and then we're, supplying this data attribute. Okay. If you're curious on the reason behind that, it's just a way of separating JavaScript and CSS functionality within the framework. Okay. So inside this accordion item, inside there, we have an anchor tab. Okay. We have an anchor, which is a link. Okay. And that has a class of Accordion Title. And that class provides the styles for Accordion 1, right? So if we go back into this, let's go back into here. That's what I wanted. Actually, I'm going to simplify this. Let's just go ahead and I'm going to trash everything above there so we have less to look at here. Let's put that back. There we go. Okay. So what was I talking about? Oh, our accordion title. So that's our accordion title, right? So if we look at this, our accordion title is this. Okay. So accordion 1. And then below that, we have a div, and a div is normally like a way of, it's the most generic way to group things. Okay. So we create this group with a div, and we give that a class of accordion content. Okay. And then we specify this as it is tabbed content. Okay. And then inside there, in this example, we just have some paragraphs. But in your case, if you're using stacks, you would then drag in your columns and your images and your pictures and whatever you wanted. Okay. In this example, the content here is very simple. It's just a paragraph with a link. Okay. So this was definitely a little bit more complex scenario because we have multiple things going on here, right? We have this parent element, which encapsulates the entire container or the entire accordion. And inside there, we have different accordion sections. And then inside each accordion section, we have an accordion tab and accordion content. Okay. So this is definitely, more complex than a button, right? Or even the menus. The menus got a little bit more complex, but this is definitely a new level. But I don't think it's hard to fathom, right? You can see the relationship here. You can see possibly how this relates to the stacks, right? So let's go ahead and look at accordions within stacks, right? So if I go ahead and add an accordion here, okay, here I have an accordion. Okay, this is the parent accordion stack. And guess what this part is, right? This is this bad boy right there. Okay, and this the ending tag. Okay, and then here we have an accordion item. Well, guess what that is? Here is an accordion item. We saw what that was, right? And it helps you out a little bit, right? Here we have a content section to type in our title. And then we have a drop zone area that we drag in our content. Okay, so this is we can see exactly how the code is mapping to these stacks, right? And we can kind of see how things are utilized. And then here I can easily add a new accordion item, right? Whereas when I did that over here, I had to copy paste the code and probably do some manipulation. So it's definitely a lot more work here. Okay, but here we see the simplicity on what these stacks the benefit that these give us, right? And especially for things complex like this, I can just add this plus button and boom, away I go, right? Pretty cool. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of appreciation for using stacks and why I still think stacks is the most fun way to build websites. Okay. I've been ignoring the chat. Hopefully, let's see if there's any questions that I've kind of missed. Wait, you just said there's a classes stack. Oh yeah, James. So inside Foundation, there under the helpers section, Foundation 6 helpers, there's a stack called classes. And if you drag that out to the page, you'll see all of the utility classes that are documented. I've documented every single utility class. Now, I don't document things like accordion and accordion item and stuff like that because those are handled by those particular stacks themselves. Okay. Or those tiny and small, large classes for buttons because those are handled by the button stack. Okay. But these are kind of, those generic utility classes that you can utilize on anything. Okay. Some of these, again, are created by the Foundation framework. Some of them, a lot of them, I've created and added them special just for you guys for the Foundation stacks. Okay. So yeah, the classes, there's just a large amount of classes here. There you go. So yep, classes stack. It's been there since day one. Okay. Nice. Let's see. Is it possible to make a button even larger than large? Yeah, it's possible. With a swatch, you can increase the font size and, increase the padding size, right? It's a simple question. I guess we can do a simple example here. So let's do, where's buttons? Buttons down here. Let's do a button. Okay. And let's say I wanted, an extra large button. Okay. So let's go over here. We're going to do font style, and we're going to do XL dash button. Okay. I know I said we're going to talk about code today, and we've done a lot today, but I figured I'd answer this really simple question here. I think it's a good one. Let's say I want my font size to be 24. Okay, on XL button. Okay, and then on top of that, I want padding. Okay, I think padding and font size are probably what constitute. And let's look at our sizing chart. Let's do it really big. Let's do like, you know what? Let's go bigger on that font. Let's do like 40. Let's do that. Let's do 40. We're gonna do a really big button. Okay, so on XL button, we're gonna do a padding. Padding class is XL button. And then let's look at the sizing chart here. Let's do like a padding of 64. All right. So now I have a font style and a padding for XL button. And I'm going to go ahead and add XL dash button on there. And if you see there is our really big button. Okay. So yeah, there we go. And if you can still add a radius onto there, so you can still use a lot of these other settings. You can make it a clear button. You can make it a hollow button, right? You can make it round, which there you go, makes it a pill, right? Add a little shadow to it. Okay. So yeah, there we go. That's how you can customize a sizable button. Okay. Pretty cool. Just with 2 swatches. Okay. Let's get back to some code. Okay. We're just, as of now, this accordion was probably one of the more complex examples within Foundation. But see, you can hop around and see how all of these things are created. And here's a quite even more complex scenario here of like these, a drop down, right? So this is a drop down stack, not a drop down menu. There is a drop down stack that is this little bad boy right here. So it allows you to you can trigger it from a button or from anything you want, right? You can hover over an image and have a drop down show up. Okay. So here's a rather complex example of how that is, right? But is this really all that complex? A lot of this has to do with here, let's take this. I'm going to copy this example here. We'll paste it over here. What is a drop down? So if we look here, that is all you need for a drop down. Okay, so we have a button. Okay, and so we've already talked about buttons. It has a class of button, and then here we add this data toggle attribute, and it toggles something called example drop down. That's important. Okay, this data toggle attribute that we add to the button, okay, this is the ID of our dropdown. So here we have a div and we have dropdown pane, which is a class that tells us that this is a dropdown, and then it has an ID attribute, and that ID needs to match what is inside this toggle. Okay, and then here we have things. So we have to add a data dropdown. We've talked about these data attributes are needed for JavaScript. Okay. And then this one also has some attributes that we can do. So we can do a data autofocus equals true. Now inside here, there was a lot of more HTML in here. Okay. But that has nothing to do with the dropdown. That's just, this here is just the example of the content that you could add to a dropdown. Okay. But you could add whatever you want. Here it's adding a form, right? Which is this bad boy right here. Okay. And with data autofocus equals true, what that does is you'll notice when we open this dropdown, it'll autofocus onto the first form element for us when we open that dropdown. So that's just an option. That's also inside of the dropdown stack inside Foundation, right? But just to show you, it's not very difficult, right? Here's this second example is a lot more simple, okay? But the implementation of the dropdown is pretty much the same. We have a button, okay? We've already talked about buttons. We have a data toggle element, okay? Right? So we have this, oh, there it goes. We have this data toggle equals example dropdown 1. And then here we have our dropdown where the ID is example dropdown 1, okay? And there's some other examples here that this particular demo is using, right? It has data hover equals true, data hover pane equals true. So that just adds some hover ability. So that tells us when we want to open that dropdown when we hover over the button, okay? And then when we hover over the content area here, we want it to make sure we stay in focus. Now, a lot of these data attributes that we'll see, if we go all the way at the bottom, on every page has this JavaScript reference, okay? And you'll see that there's all kinds of options, okay? They were on the Accordion as well. I just thought I'd show you some examples from something else, okay? But all of the various Foundation components have these settings that you can set inside the HTML. And you'll notice that most of these settings correspond to settings inside my stacks, right? So I allow you to set a lot of these. There are probably some here and there that I don't have options for, probably some very edge case things that I just felt like hardly anyone would ever use. Okay. But yeah, these are options that you can add to your HTML elements. So, you can add that hover ability, some offsets and stuff like that. So you can, and all these are added as data attributes to the actual element. Okay. So here's a good example here where we're enabling that hover ability. When we hover over our button, it's going to open instead of by default, which is click. Okay. Pretty cool there. James says that code always looks complicated, though it just may be an illusion. Yeah, I think a lot of us are scared of it, but just like anything, you won't get non-scared of it. Is that a thing? You won't get scared of it the more you use it, right? The more you're exposed to it. And again, like I said earlier, we don't have to know. I don't expect you guys to go to this site and copy and paste and use code. I mean, that's why I've done all that work for you, right? That's why you paid me, okay? Because you needed the ability to drag and drop. Hell, I even need that. I prefer building websites using my stacks rather than opening up a code editor and doing this crap. I don't enjoy doing this. This isn't fun for me, okay? But using and dragging a button stack out here and building this is more fun, right? This is more visual. This gives us, a look, right? As we're designing our site, I can get an idea and by seeing things, at least how I function is I see things, then I get more ideas come in, right? But when you're just looking at a page of code, that doesn't, when I'm designing, at least, that doesn't tickle my fancy. So if I don't like designing a site like this, I wouldn't expect you guys to like to design a site like this either. Okay. But like I said, when I started, this entire exercise today on this live stream was to expose you guys to this foundation website, the documentation website, so you guys can go through it. You'll see that there's all kinds of stuff, form validation, okay, the sticky modules, the smooth scrolls, the togglers, equalizer. There's something called interchange, which actually I don't even use inside any of the foundation stacks right now, mostly because I use some other native browser components instead. So yeah, interchange, I don't even have stacks that utilize interchange at the moment. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff in here. Okay, even Orbit. Orbit is the slider stack. Okay, badges, right? So yeah, all of these have stacks, and I just wanted to get you guys to be able to see that the origins of this, right? The origins of the stacks that we have, and to see how the stacks themselves map to the code. And if you wanted, you could just copy and paste these code snippets directly into RapidWeaver, and you're good to go, right? So with that, I won't break your brains anymore. Hopefully that helped you guys out a little bit today. Just to kind of show you the origins of how things are, how maybe a little bit about classes, and how all it is just a little attribute with a little thing, and how they're utilized, and how these settings that are in the stacks, all you do is apply a class, right? It's not very scary. Okay. But hopefully it also gave you an appreciation of stacks, right? And how much easier it is to just, oh, I want a button, I just drag this out. Boom, I'm done. Right? I mean, obviously, you change the colors or the, change the button text and all that jazz, right? But ultimately, like, this is a much more enjoyable experience. Okay. But knowing our origins is always important. So hopefully that helped you guys out today. What is the roadmap for Foundation? Oh, that is a great question. I'm getting pinged on that from all sides, mostly from the open source side as well. People want to know where things are going. Foundation 7, I am working and planning it. And it will be, at least from the technology side, okay, the code side, a completely different beast than it is right now. Us having stacks versions of Foundation 7, I don't even have an ETA when the framework side will be done. So I definitely don't have a vision on when the stacks will ultimately come. But it will be different. Okay. It will, at least from the code perspective. I don't even know what stacks will look like, or when stacks, this will probably be stacks 5 or stacks 6. Whenever that comes out, I don't know what that landscape is. So it's hard for me to tell you exactly what it's going to look like. Okay. I am going to be leveraging a lot of the latest and greatest, technologies in Foundation 7. So that means dropping, like, the current framework supports, still supports IE and stuff like that. So obviously I'm going to be dropping that. And by doing that, we're going to be able to leverage a lot of stuff. For example, you guys, the stacks users, have actually have access to a newer version or experimental things that I plan on doing in version 7. You guys actually already have access to a lot of that inside RapidWeaver, because I'm kind of using that as the experiment and the use case that I'm then going to put back in the framework version 7. So a lot of that has to do with how swatches are managed, and something called CSS variables that I think I've talked about a couple times on the live streams. The framework side doesn't have any of that. Okay. But you guys have access to that, and it's really cool. So that was actually kind of the real core, one of the really big features of Foundation 7. But you guys already have that in Foundation 6 for RapidWeaver. Okay. So yeah, let's see. Thanks for the insight. Blah, blah, blah. Yep. Thank you. Would you do a stream on PayPal with Total CMS to edit the pay buttons? sure, we could look at potentially looking at various ways of doing e-commerce and total CMS. Yeah, that could be good. Actually, you know what? That could be a great topic for the conference, which leads me up to, hey guys, October 22nd to October 24th. It's going to be the Weaverspace Summit, and it is 3 days of talks from not only myself, but other developers and other powerful, experienced users and inexperienced users coming up. So it's 2 months away. I just posted an announcement on the Weaverspace community and the RapWeaver forums. So go ahead and check that out. And so yeah, check it out. It's $99, 3 days, 100% virtual online. I know, guys, I spoil you with these live streams, but that 3-day event is really great because it really gives us an opportunity to not only interact with and hear some great talks from our fellow weavers, but also to interact, because I have basically inter-day hangouts. So we have lunchtime. We have 3 hangouts a day, one before the conference, in the mid, like a lunchtime hangout, and then a post-day hangout. And those are awesome because we get to meet the speakers and we get to talk to each other and really hang out and talk about website design, how we can make everything better and learn and teach you to be even better than you are now. So it's a great event, 3 days. Go to summit.weavers.space, get your tickets. You can actually get free access to all the videos from 2016 to 2018 right now. So if you go to summit.weavers.space, you can get free access to those videos. And then you could purchase your tickets for this year, which gives you access to all of the videos, even the past 3 years. Okay, so go ahead. Hopefully I'll see you there at the summit. It's a great time. And yeah, I can't say enough about it. It's a really fun environment. Hopefully people in the chat, if you've attended, let people know. And also, hey, I'd appreciate it if you go into the community, go into the announcement thread. And if you joined before, let people know if you enjoyed it and why you enjoyed it and why you thought it was fun and a good place to be. So take care, everyone. We will see you. Hopefully we'll see some of you maybe on the hangout on Friday. And if not, we'll see you rest next week on next week's live stream. Bye, guys.